out, and then you might get a couple of like fun frills, like some extra nice wood or something like that. So the gun I have, the gun I shoot primarily is a Beretta 686. The real stripped out, real basic ones start at like $1,200, and mine.
All quiet on set.
Oh.
Yeah, it sounded like
Okay, very good.
a building fell over just.
America, we stand for freedom. Though freedom is never really free, we yearn and strive for government protecting our liberty.
Good evening and welcome to Your Right to Know by the Fitchburg Rerpublican City Committee. My name is Mary Lotze and I will be your co-host for this evening's show. Joining me as usual is my friend and partner in show is attorney Andrew Couture. Andrew, welcome. And our special guest tonight is another friend of ours, longtime returning guest on the show is Morgan Jeleniewski, and Morgan is a licensed firearms dealer in the state of Massachusetts, also former owner of Minuteman Armory in Templeton. Tonight we're going to talk about a very serious, timely, and important topic, and that has to do with things that have been happening in the news and causing a lot of concern for many people, and realistic concern. We certainly don't mean to be in any way, shape, or form flippant about this topic. It is serious, and that's gun control, gun violence, and people who own weapons, and the right to own weapons that's given to us in the Second Amendment of the Constitution. So with getting right into the topic, I'd like to first pose to both Attorney Couture, who is not only an attorney, but an attorney who specializes in gun rights law, and to Morgan, who sells weapons of all kinds on a regular basis. About this, what is, right now we hear routinely, this past month alone, starting out the month of August, we had 104 gun violent deaths. There's been more than that, but this was just in the two shootings, one in El Paso, Texas on the 3rd of August, and within 12 hours on the 4th of August, we had another, was it Dayton. How many more people were killed in that one? I have my statistics down here. But it was high, 104 people so far this year. What can we do? Right away, the gun grabbers are out there chomping at the bit. We have to close the loopholes. We have to do background universal checks. We have to have red flag laws. So these are some of the things I would like to explore as we actually look at some weapons and investigate what makes a weapon illegal or legal in the state of Massachusetts. So can we start out with, when we hear so much about gun show loopholes, please explain that to our viewers.
Roughly, as I understand it, there's no true gun show loophole. If you go to a gun show and want to buy a firearm, you still have to pass a background check, just like you would if you came to my shop, just like you would if you went to any shop in the entire country. You have to go through a background check. That's what it is. And I don't truly understand what the so-called gun show loophole is supposed to be. The theory that we have is that the loophole is that private sales are allowed at a gun show. In Massachusetts, I as a person can just go and sell to another person a firearm. We happen to be at a gun show. The gun show has nothing to do with the two of us selling the firearm to each other. So truth be told, I don't truly know what the alleged gun show loophole is, but the best theory that any of us have is that it's the ability to private sell firearms at a gun show, in which case, myself, if I were to sell a firearm to Attorney Couture, we wouldn't have to process a background check, but we do have to make sure that each of us has a license. I have a license so that I have the ability to sell it, and he has a license for the ability to be allowed to purchase it. So even so, there's certain protocol that we have to follow. Other states have slightly different rules, but
And the risk of not following those laws?
prison.
Prison.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some serious prison time. I mean, in my opinion, the gun show loophole is more of a fallacy than anything else. It's one of those calling cards that the anti-Second Amendment group loves to throw out there and has no idea what they're even talking about. In Massachusetts, you have to be an FFL or a federal firearms dealer to set up at a gun show.
Well, plus you also have to have Massachusetts licenses on top of that.
Correct.
So
ignoring my personal permit to carry, you have to have a federal license and state-issued licenses.
So we'll just say I was a gun owner. I'm not, but we'll just say I was a gun owner. I can't go to a gun show, pull out my little folding card table, put out my weapons, and put up a sign that says I'm selling.
If you had guns and you're not a gun owner and you're not licensed, you've already committed a handful of felonies. But even if you had a license and you had firearms, you can't just go to the gun show. The gun show's not going to allow you.
Okay.
They're just not going to allow it.
Correct. So, and when you go to a gun show and you decide to purchase a firearm, you still have to comply with the federal background check, which is required on all sales. All 50 states require a federal firearms license to fill out what's a NICS form.
4473.
A 4473, and that is you put in your name, address, your all your identification, even goes into height, weight, eye color, and then they ask you, are you a felon? Are you currently have a restraining order? Have you ever been declared mentally defective? Have you ever been adjudicated as having a mental problem? So that's something that's required in all 50 states.
Okay.
So the fallacy of the gun show loophole is nothing more than the anti-Second Amendment crowd just throwing out dog whistles to make everybody stand up and listen.
Okay, then let me ask you about this other rule or thing that they keep putting out, and that's the universal background check. So if they don't, they say, well, at least we want universal background checks. So what is a universal background check? Is this federal law?
We already go through a universal background check. In the state of Massachusetts, if you're going to get your license to carry, you have to basically open up your life to your local police department. They check your criminal record. They check your...
They don't actually tell us what they check. But we've sort of been able to figure it out based on people who have had issues, but they at the very least do a query. They start with doing the same federal background check that you do every time you intend to purchase a firearm. You fill out the form. They do that at a start, and then they check. Nobody really knows what they check. They don't tell us what they check. They just, we're doing the work.
Is it kind of like a random because...
No, they check 100% of license applicants 100% of the time. It typically takes a few months for this to happen.
Okay. And I know, because I may have misspoke, I don't own firearms, but I do have a license to carry. Picture, fingerprinted,
You had to go through a universal background.
You have to have some references of people who know you in the community and can vouch for your citizenship or good standing.
And in the state of Massachusetts, the police department has a very, very wide berth on who they can give a license to. I mean, they can deny you for any reason.
They can literally deny you just because they don't like the fact that you're a lawyer.
Right.
Of course, they're going to get a fight because of that. But
of course.
He's wearing a red tie and you're wearing a teal dress. So I don't like teal. You don't get your license.
I don't get my license.
And very, very technically, they're within their rights.
Sure.
And in my practice, I have a lot of people who come to me that are denied for really ridiculous reasons. I mean, I'm working on a case right now where this woman had her license license to carry for at least 15 years because she's gone through a couple of renewals. So every 5 years,
Yeah.
you have to renew your license. So she's gone through renewal after renewal, and they automatically, they all of a sudden denied her because, 20 years ago she was charged with a DUI, not convicted, but charged with a DUI, so they find her to be an unsuitable person. Well, she's already gone through numerous background checks.
Right.
This has never been a problem before, but now all of a sudden this one charge is now a problem. The reason being is because the new chief is now very anti-Second Amendment in Springfield.
In the city.
In the city. So that's a huge issue.
Well, I do have my statistics here in front of me now, and El Paso had 22 killed, over 26 injured, and in Dayton they had 9 killed, over 24 injured. So the problem is serious. But it seems in these cases, one of the problems to me seems to be untreated, unrecognized, unreported mental illness. Now, you made a
step back
comment
for 1
about
second, though?
adjudicated. Yes, Morgan.
The biggest problem we have here is the left inherently automatically blames the tool.
Right.
Okay? Someone's killed drunk driving, you don't blame the alcohol, you blame the person. If I were to stab Attorney Couture right now, you're not going to blame the knife, you're going to blame the Morgan.
Yeah.
If I push you down the stairs, you're not going to blame the stairs, you're going to blame the Morgan for pushing you down the stairs. The firearm has never killed anybody. We've got guns at the shop that just sit there and enjoy everybody all day long, and they don't ought to jump up and shoot anybody.
These are just sitting here right here.
The
not
tool,
harming anybody.
the firearms are just a tool. So this was an act that was done with a firearm, yes, but banning the firearm doesn't make the person not crazy and willing to do obscene things.
And that's one of the things that I'd like to get to momentarily, but I would like to show people all of these weapons are unloaded, they've been checked for safety, they right now are no different than a club. I could hurt you right now by taking a weapon and swinging it at you, because in and of itself it is absolutely inert.
Correct.
It cannot do anything to hurt anyone.
Correct.
So when we look at some of the problems we're having with people who can obtain guns, many times we're looking at people who've obtained guns perfectly legally.
That's correct.
In the case of the Dayton and the El Paso shootings, both of those people caused concern, considerable concern. One for the killer's mother, who actually called the police department and questioned what she might do, but when she had a problem, she thought she might have a concerning issue, but when the policeman questioned her and said, "Is this something you would like to report?" she backed off and said no, and ended the phone conversation by reports that I've heard. The other one had a manifesto of murdering people, a manifesto of raping, a rape list, of
Kill list.
crazy stuff. So how can we get people to start reporting this so that these people will then be adjudicated and then will be denied license to carry?
Ignoring denying them a license to carry or license to or the ability to buy a firearm just to get help, because I think a lot of times the need to get help becomes heavily stigmatized, and someone can't go get help because they're afraid of how it's going to people are going to see them if people find out.
Well, interesting. Mental illness it comes in many shapes or forms, but it is still an illness.
Right. It's the root of the problem no matter what.
But people don't have any thoughts about getting their high blood pressure treated or their diabetes treated, but if it comes to maybe having a little anxiety, if it comes to having a little depression or whatever, we can't go there. And then oftentimes people go untreated by themselves.
And I think another question is to what extreme are we going to go? You just said, have a bout of anxiety. as an attorney, I'm under a lot of pressure. Do I sometimes, get some anxiety? Of course I do. Everybody does. If a relative, say your mother passes away, and you go through a small bout of depression, you go see a doctor, you get some medication. Does that automatically prevent you from getting any type of a firearm or keeping the firearms that you already have?
Right.
It's a very slippery slope.
It is.
And
how you define mental illness or
Correct.
serious mental illness.
Correct. Now, if you have a person that is, seriously mentally ill, wasn't too long ago the mental hospitals were closed. And they just let everybody out. Just go ahead, go do whatever you're going to do. And I know Donald Trump has talked about reestablishing some sort of a mental health facility, some sort of mental health facility to take care of people who have extreme mental health problems. And I think these two individuals would be in that extreme level.
And we think of Sandy Hook and that young man who killed his mother, and his mother was a licensed gun owner and had it, and what can you say? The young man got into the lockers, and
he committed something like 17 felonies before he got to the school.
So, I think what we want to look at now is some of these weapons. I hope I use the right term.
It's called firearms.
Firearms. And talk to us about, because a few years ago, our Attorney General, Maura Healey, with the pen at 3 o'clock one afternoon, banned a whole class of firearms.
Yes.
To me, they're all scary black guns. So what I'd like you to do, and I'm sure to many of our viewers they're all scary black guns, kind of analyze them for us. What of these guns, which ones of these guns are legal? Which ones are not legal? And why? Because they all look the same.
Sure. If you want to hand me the bottom one.
And I'm going to sit down during this display, but Morgan and Andrew can certainly get up.
See if we can set that up here. So we're starting off with a Ruger Mini 14. This gun is technically in Massachusetts completely unbannable. When the '92 firearms federal assault weapons ban was written in place, there was a fairly sizable list of firearms that were defined cannot be assault weapons. The Mini 14 was one of them, and particularly what we're after here is to kind of show some irony in this. In this particular case, this one happens to have a 10-round magazine in it, which I can't quite get out at that angle. 10-round magazine in it. It shoots .223 or .556 ammunition, which is the same as all the rest of the firearms on the table.
Which is actually a very small bullet.
It's same as a .22 bullet.
Which is a small.
22 bullet, which is a pretty small caliber in the grand scheme of things. Relatively speaking, it's a fairly low-powered bullet as far as rifle munitions are concerned. The key here is this gun can have all of the evil features. The evil features being a folding or collapsing stock, pistol grip, which this one doesn't have, but some of the other ones do.
Let's talk about what the evil features are to our viewers, so they'll understand a little bit better. What would be an evil feature?
So this is a fairly typical AR-15 pattern rifle. Your primary evil features are...
So this one would be banned?
This one is currently illegal. We keep this one as
legal?
This one is illegal.
Illegal.
Not allowed for Attorney Couture or for you guys to have. I can have it because I'm a dealer. This is one of our police demonstration guns. So in this case, our evil features are the adjustable stock that doesn't require any tools to adjust. So in this case, we just have a little lever. The stock also can't fold. In this case, on this particular rifle, it can't fold for the gun to work. A pistol grip, which protrudes conspicuously below the action of the gun, with the action is right here. A detachable magazine. So a detachable magazine is considered detachable because all I have to do is simply press a button and the magazine comes out of the gun. It's pretty much unheard of, but a grenade launcher is an evil feature. And this particular rifle has a flash hider on here, but a flash hider or simply a threaded barrel are not allowed. So what we would otherwise do is we'd put a muzzle brake on here, which is frequently pretty similar to a flash hider, and then we permanently affix that device to the end of the barrel so that no longer has a threaded barrel. To before 2016, when Attorney General made her statements, we were allowed to have this rifle with 2 total evil features on it, or we call them evil features, with 2 total features. Inherently, it's a detachable magazine and the pistol grip. What we do is typically this is either fixed in one position or it's adjustable using tools. And then we'll typically run a standard muzzle brake on the end that is permanently attached. So you have only 2 total evil features on the rifle.
Now, going on that, these evil features do nothing to the actual operation of the firearm.
Nope. At the end of the day, these 2 rifles are fundamentally exactly the same. This one doesn't happen to have a pistol grip on it, although I have an example here.
I'm just thinking, is the collapsible or changeable stock and the pistol grip, that would seem to me comfort.
That's really what it becomes at the end of the day, because I'm a fair bit larger than you are, although you can't stand up to prove that. If I have the firearm set up for me, it doesn't fit you.
Right.
And so that makes you, in theory, it makes you more dangerous is really what it does. The pistol grip versus the shotgun style stock, it's just a comfort thing, and it depends on the rest of the configuration of the rifle. It doesn't make this gun any more dangerous. So what I was getting at is these 2 rifles are fundamentally exactly the same. The engine, the core of the gun is exactly the same. This is just a stock kit that literally you peel these parts off, you plug them onto the new gun. This gun, although, or because it's a Mini 14, it is theoretically unbannable. I can have all my 8 evil features on here, 7 evil features, or however many there are, including my grenade launcher if I were so inclined. And the one I forgot was, in some cases, there'd be a bayonet lug, which, who cares? In this case, this gun is no more dangerous than it was when it was in its completely standard, generic, boring, socially acceptable format. You put it in the scary-looking, evil, black, fancy stock, nothing changed. The gun is still exactly the same. It still shoots the exact same ammunition as this guy does. It shoots it at the exact same rate, at roughly the same accuracy, just potentially a little bit more comfortably or a little bit less comfortably, because now this gun is actually a fair bit heavier than it was a moment ago, so in theory it's a little bit harder to use.
Well, you actually mentioned something, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things that we think about when we hear the terms automatic, fully automatic, semi-automatic, is that people like myself, we're used to watching TV, and we think of somebody holding a large, scary black gun, pulling a trigger, and going, you know, rat-a-tat-tat-tat. And when we see the numbers we have in these mass killings, we realize that that's really one of the things, is that you can shoot so many more people so quickly with some of these guns. So are these guns able to shoot up, 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 or are they just going to go 1 bullet, 1 bullet, 1 bullet with a trigger pull?
Fundamentally speaking, all firearms are semi-automatic or slower. So machine guns have been outlawed since 1984 or 6, I forget.
So
which
if we
it was.
start thinking of the Untouchables.
Right.
Yeah, so if you start thinking A-Team with this guy, in theory you can still buy, that original gun was a modified Mini 14, which is called an AC-556, irrelevant. You can theoretically go out and buy one of those for something like $10,000, and you could, in theory, modify this gun to be fully automatic. The key, however, is nobody's doing that.
Okay.
It's just not happening. The penalties are far too steep, and the reality of modifying one of these guns to be a machine gun is just, it's just not reality.
And if you do modify it, that's some serious
Massive
massive legal
Humongous
problems for
felonies.
you.
Even on top of my federal firearms license, I have to have a special license to have a machine gun as a dealer.
Okay.
To have and to even transfer them to police agencies or whomever. The reality is it's one squeeze of the trigger, 1 round is discharged, and then you release the trigger and the gun has already recycled and it's ready for the next round. So they are semi-automatic in that regard. You're not just going to pull the trigger and everybody falls down dead. It just doesn't work that way.
Okay. Okay.
Now, getting back to what we were saying about, you were saying that many during these shootings, it's all in how fast you can pull the trigger. So that's that also brings us to the discussion of magazine capacity.
Right, because that's limited by law also, isn't it?
Yeah, it's convoluted, but in Massachusetts, the short answer is you're limited to 10 rounds virtually no matter what the gun is.
Okay.
So this is a 10-round magazine for these two firearms.
Yes.
Okay. So, but you take this is a 30-round magazine.
I think so.
So that would be
25.
illegal.
This would be illegal unless it was
so-
before the ban.
Here's the irony: is this magazine was made before 1992, so it holds 30 rounds, but it's perfectly legal to have, own, possess, and use.
Okay.
This magazine was made after 1992, so it has to be 10 rounds or less.
So what is the magic 1992? What is that?
That was when the federal assault weapons ban went into place, and so during that time, Massachusetts adopted it as state law, and fundamentally, any magazine made before then it was grandfathered in as legal. Anything after then is not legal.
Is there a date on them? That you would know?
Usually there is not. In that case, those magazines haven't been made since before 1992.
Okay.
So when the assault weapons ban came into place, a lot of companies went out of business. So
Okay.
we know that particular one is legal because they simply haven't been made since 1992.
Okay. All right.
So, a lot of people. Well, you just referenced that a lot of people have been killed. In large amounts. So the 30-round magazine. So you carry 30 rounds in this magazine. This is a 10-round. Okay. If you have one of these but 3 of these, you can drop this out and just put in another one, and it makes no difference.
Right. Could you just show how quickly you released it again? I know you had.
For example, in this guy, it's literally just a button, comes
Okay.
out, goes back in. These guys you have to rock it in a little bit, but
So if you were intent upon causing wide-scale
if you're
mayhem.
intent upon causing havoc, a revolver and aim is going to do the exact same job.
Mm-hmm.
Magazine capacity makes no difference whatsoever. It's not relevant. Magazine capacity is simply not relevant. I can pile these all over myself if I were so inclined, and I can change these 3 seconds, 3 to 5 seconds if I've practiced. But the key is, if you come in and you're just, using your example, just spraying and praying is what we call it, you're not likely to hit very much either. People panic, they flurry, they run, they duck. You get excited, a person gets excited, and you don't aim, you don't hit anything. If I go in with a 6-shot revolver and I know how to reload that gun, I have 6 rounds, but if I'm aiming every single time because my intent is to do harm, I'm arguably more dangerous than if I have 45, 30 rounds.
And you're just spraying.
Right.
Now that final weapon over there, that really looks dreadful.
Well, so the irony behind Maura Healey's edict is, I can't really say what I'm thinking because it'll get me in trouble, but there's plenty of firearms that are not AR-15s, they're not AR-15 pattern, they're not on the enumerated list, which is a series of other weapons that are just automatically banned, aren't banned and are still required to only have 2 evil features on them. In this case, you're still inherently going to be a detachable magazine and inherently going to be the pistol grip. Or if there's certain federally classified weapons, this one is classified as a short barrel rifle, so it's an SBR. It's allowed to have all your evil features, even in Massachusetts again. It's not illegal. Even when we sell these with a standard full-length barrel, muzzle brake on it, and a slightly different stock on here, still perfectly legal for me to sell in Massachusetts. Makes no difference. So it's sort of short-sighted law.
Ironic.
And it's always been the case.
Yeah.
And again, not more people are getting hurt because these firearms are being sold.
I think this has been a fabulous tutorial for our viewers and certainly for me, but we've come to the end of our show, and I have to thank you for coming, and Andrew for sharing your law with us, because this has been very interesting and informative. So we thank you for watching Your Right to Know and sitting in here with the FRCC. As we leave you, we want you to remember that your local city and town Republican Committee is your only grassroots organization that holds dear your liberty, your constitutional rights, and conservative values. To us, the GOP stands for growth, opportunity, growth, opportunity, and prosperity for all people, and we always stand for freedom. Thank you and good night.
stand for freedom. So let us all unite to yearn and strive for our republic that reflects our values, that preserves our rights, and goes forth in power and might, that reflects our values and preserves our rights, and goes forth